to ConverStayShuns. I am Devin Boyd, aka Lyrical Instrumentalist, and I have my guest here, Nigel. How's it going, Nigel?
That's right. Hey, I'm good. I'm good. Old school. That's I am.
That was some of your students call you?
Nah, they call me Mr. Boyd.
Oh, okay. Cool, cool. So yeah, I want to bring you onto the show just because I know you're someone that is in the educational profession, and just have a conversation about some different things regarding the education system, and just to see your thoughts. Because last week I had almost, I guess, a conversation by myself. I'm just talking about questioning the intellects in education. So I want to actually bring somebody that's really actually in that field onto the show. So again, we can have a conversation. But at the beginning of all my shows, I always like to kind of debrief. So how was your day today, sir?
Yeah, it was fantabulous. I got up and still inhaling and exhaling, trying to make sure I do something good today. So if I'm blessed with tomorrow, I feel good about what I did yesterday.
Oh, I see what you did there. That's cool. Well, cool. Yeah, my day was pretty good. Like I said, been working all day and happy to be off to do this.
Well, hey, that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you still have what, a little over 6 hours left, so it's not done yet.
True. And you could even say this day is just beginning.
Well, yeah, you can. It begins where you want it to begin. That's right.
Like I said, time is not measured in the hands of a clock, but in the palm of the beholder.
Oh, watch out now. that's school right there,
Right.
But that's how that works. A lot of times you be dropping wisdom and knowledge, and that's what the whole education process is. It's like, where does it come from, and how do you deliver it? And sometimes, the key factor, we're not listening. So listen, and we pick up on those beautiful things.
That's true. You can't talk and listen at the same time.
Nah, we can't multitask that one. We can talk and hear, but we won't have the right level of understanding. It can be misconstrued, struded, or whatever. Or apple strudel, whatever you want to call it.
Look, last week when I was, like I said, having a conversation by myself, basically I was talking about how words, even though you said that, I still understood what you meant. So I was like, words ain't nothing but symbols of communication. So as long as I understood what you meant, in the end of it, it doesn't really matter what you said.
True. That's part of just being respectful and positive. When I think about people who, whomever, you're in a different country and you have an accent and you might not pronounce pronounce everything correctly. People, they might laugh and giggle because they know you said the wrong thing, but they understand. Then you got the ignorant people who try to make it seem like you are just illiterate in that particular language, and they don't give you any leeway to making those errors. That's sometimes, to me, that's the immaturity. I know we have that a lot in this country. People speaking other languages and those hardcore, I don't know what to call it. I won't say nothing rude about it.
Linguists,
but they pretend not. I won't even say that. They just pretend not to understand. They know people struggling with, trying to be clear about what they're saying. And then you got those ignorant folks who, just because they detect the accent, just want to be negative.
Right, and act like they can't understand anything that they're saying.
Right. Don't even try to assist. It's like, hey, I know you're trying to say somewhere, you're trying to go somewhere. Do you need something? You try to help them through it, but instead they'll just shut it down and make people feel, less than they are.
Right.
I guess that's some superiority. So I'm gonna throw out some things and let people digest it and understand some mispronunciations.
Look, I say if you can see it, say spell it. It's a word. And again, like I said, based off what I said before, with symbols and communication. So, I mean, again, yeah. Look, I'm not an English teacher, but speaking of teachers, what do you teach, sir?
Well, I taught a lot of things, man. I taught, accounting. I've taught GED classes, which, that includes social studies, math, reading, writing, science. I've taught leadership classes, of course. I teach capoeira classes and just teach some of the knowledge and wisdom, that's been gained through the years. So, teaching is just continuous. As a parent, I'm a father, so it seems like teaching is just part of the continuum. If you're a parent, well, I take that back. Some parents don't know how to teach, but I'm one of the teachable parents or teaching parents. And that could possibly come from the fact that my parents were teachers. So,
okay.
Yeah, I've been around teachers all my life.
Ain't nothing wrong with that at all. So how long would you say you've been teaching?
Ooh, man.
I guess I'll say how long you've been teaching in, I guess, the educational system, I guess we can say.
So it would be like formal education. Yeah,
right.
That would be, man, close to 20 years, pretty much. Some form of fashion. About 20 years, give or take.
That's cool. Would you say? Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say you break down that teaching element, and it's like the formal, the informal, and the non-formal. But normally, when people talk about teaching, they think about that organized version, with programming and standards and all of that stuff. So from that perspective, it's been, I would say, really about 15 years, most likely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's what's up. What I was gonna say was, would you say that, even like say, because from my understanding, you teach, is it just college?
Well, it had been. Well, it was in a college environment, so I wouldn't say a specific college course per se, but in a college environment, that type of high education environment. But then at the same time, I've done some substitute teaching. Not that it's as structured, but I do take the time to, put my influence and input with whatever the regular teacher may have left for a student. So even with that, I have to throw my 2 cents in. So like I say, teaching, that's just something, I don't know, it's in my blood. I can say it like that. I always feel like I'm teaching. There's always a good teaching moment just through conversations.
Yeah. That's why I'm kind of person I really just like to listen, because I can always learn from just hearing people talk. But then at the same time, yeah, like you said, I can take in that knowledge or wisdom from that particular person or people or whatever, and then take that and apply it wherever else. So from teaching in both environments, would you say the education system is different from when you were in those particular environments? So like at a college level, when you were like in the position as those students, as well as like even when you were substituting, when you were at that age in that environment, would you say that they were different then than they are now?
It's similar and different. It's like, let's start off with the worst case scenario, substitute teacher. I don't think, even during my time when I was a kid, substitute teacher come, it's playtime,
right.
And they do the same thing. As soon as you hit the door to the classroom, you're thinking, oh my goodness, and I hear it. What's up? Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so is not in class today. I have to put them in check. I put them in check. I say, hey, I know you guys are going to do X, Y, Z. You're going to behave a certain way differently from what you normally do. I say, but I'm not that teacher. I'm not that sub. I've been on that side of the desk before, but you guys just need to be respectful. And that's all I ask. But for the most part, the reaction be the same. Substitute teacher. As far as the normal classroom, and I've seen it. In my day, instructors they can pull out the paddle, but the paddle was an extension of what happened at the household as well. We call it whippings or whatever. Some places call it corporal punishment, but that's just a little over the top. It was like you just were getting disciplined, but you get a whipping at school, you get a whipping again at home. And I didn't have that luxury because, like I said, in elementary school, my mom taught that. So the few times that I did step out of line, teachers would laugh and send me to my mom. And she had a set of rulers, man. Like, it was about 8 rulers, rubber band together.
Ooh.
You got to put your hand out, get hit about 4 or 5 times. If you pull your hand back and get hit on the fingertips, that doesn't count. You still get it. So, and then, back in those days, every kid wasn't making the grade, but the difference between then and now, the kid who wasn't making a high grade or wasn't doing well in school seemed like the one who kind of got picked on. Versus now, it's like the kid who really try to achieve sometimes seem like the one that's outside of the box per se, So,
okay.
You know what I'm saying? So kids tend to, you could be an A student or have A student ability, but you rather get the C or B because you don't want to appear to be so smart, and they don't realize how that's going to affect them later in life. But I'm like, go ahead on and get your A.
Right.
But it comes down with the with the mindset and the majority. So if the majority are, not achieving at the max, that's where everybody land. You think about it. These days you have what they call no kid left behind. That's
right.
And social promotion. Back in my day, it was like you got kept back. That was it. No social promotion. If you stay in 3rd grade forever, that's just where you be.
Right.
It's we'll put you in the 5th grade because you at that age now. Now you'll just be in that particular grade, and at some point, it'll sink in and you'll pass. But there was no social promotion. I think kids, they kind of realize that it's hurtful.
Right.
Which speaks to the system. But, like I said, back in the day, another thing that's interesting in the change, man, is I would think the attention that kids get in the classroom. Teachers had a different natural ability a long time ago, and they had this, what I would call classroom management. They managed their class. Every now and then you might have somebody that's unruly, but it was like 1 or 2. It was never a whole school system or whatever the case is, until you maybe get in high school, there'd be fights, but in the classroom, it just wasn't a turmoil that they have these days. So the learning environment was different. Teachers had a little more impact.
Right.
Like I said, they had a little more class management. They dealt with the students, just, straight up. And the whole school system was behind whatever discipline was going down, the principal or whatever the case was. And these days, teachers got to walk on stones and unfortunately have this, large meter of fear sometimes going to school or dealing with certain students or certain environments. But I don't really think that existed back in the day. I mean, teachers were, how they say it these days, grown men and grown women. It's like a kid.
Right.
We ain't running nothing.
Right.
Like now,
And like what you're saying, I think too, especially now. I know even when I was in school, we still had, probably like I said, more quote unquote troubled kids than like I said then, or people who'd be more disruptive probably than when you were. But still, like you're saying, it wasn't like it wasn't like a whole classroom full of us just being disruptive. There might be like a group of friends who are constantly, but like I said, just generally speaking, it wasn't like always like I said a group of students that were doing that. But then I feel like now I think some of the younger generations don't respect the adults or respect the teachers as much, and I think that might be also a result of kind of their home environment as well, where they don't feel like they're going to get in trouble when they get home anyway. So, I don't really care what the teacher going to say. Or I know, like some students, their parents are automatically going to assume like the teacher's wrong, so they're too quick to I guess back their or their child's what am I trying to say?
But they'll side with their kid first. It's not even, sometimes it's not even the right level of respect between parents and teachers.
Right.
Because they're adults. So it's like, hey, let me go see what the teacher have to say about the situation before I, fly off the handle or whatever the case is. Because I need to give, due respect to the adult that's involved in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then, go in there and be mindful and listen and look at the reaction of your son and your daughter and see if they whole demeanor changes when you and this teacher having a dialogue.
Right, exactly.
And sometimes kids will calm down. It's like they realize, oh my goodness, they're talking.
Right.
I'm in trouble now. But often times that's not how it goes. Parents go and they're already in defense mode and kid pumping it up. And, they get there with attitude. Teachers, 9 times out of 10 have to take it, listen to it, and it's just difficult. The whole system is difficult. It's kind of broken in that respect, but that's just a reflection on, society. And you said something about respect. So, how are students going to go to school and respect adults when, the parents are really not giving them that, instilling in them that type of behavior at home.
Right. I can definitely see that.
But back in our day, you just was, like I said, I knew some bad kids. They wouldn't be bad at school because an adult would be in the vicinity.
Right.
But, they did some bad things, man. But, it was just this unwritten rule. You just didn't want an adult to see you because you just feel that they had some, way before the internet, they had some way of connecting and finding the information will get back to your parent, and that's the worst thing that can happen.
Right, exactly.
So you make up stories, you get in fights, and you try to tell your parent whether somebody else started it or you do this, but you'll do whatever it takes for your parent not to have to, in most cases, go and have a conversation, with the teacher, because when they do, that's when they're gonna find out the truth.
Mm-hmm. That was pretty much me. When I was younger, I didn't want to participate in what might be perceived as bad things because I just felt like the same thing my parents would find out somehow. Even if I knew there was no adults around, it just felt like somehow somebody was going to find out. One of the kids was going to snitch or it was going to come out some way. So I was like, like you said, especially in school, didn't want to do nothing. Because I know me personally, I wasn't afraid of the teachers or anything like from them, but I just didn't want to get in trouble when I got home. Because even like there'd be times where like people will be bothering me and I'd be wanting to fight. But I know especially like in junior high and high school, you'd get a ticket and you'd get suspended and of course your parents called. My biggest thing was the ticket, of course, because I'm not going to be the one paying for it. So then that's
Mm.
even a double whammy. Because then, of course, my parents gonna be paying for it, and I gotta get in trouble by them, and I'm getting kicked out of school. So it's like all of that's gonna be coming down more towards the parents than just of me. So yeah, but like, but like I said, I don't think now a lot of kids are worried about any of that kind of stuff. They like you said, they be
Yes,
fighting all the time, and it's just yeah.
yes, not that the consequence. There's no filter for the consequence. The consequence is not. It's not. I don't know. I guess it's not major for the time. You know, you can't.
Mm-hmm.
The consequences that we had back in the day, you can't even apply those today. You know, so kids know they can get away with more. It almost seemed like, you know, you kids are more. They in some cases they know they can't say certain things to adults at home. But hey, this is a teacher. You know, I'm gonna tell you what I feel because I can't do it at home. So it's almost like a way of venting, and you know, maybe sometimes you just catch back at my parents. Here's some adults that I can talk back to
Right.
because I can't do it at home. You know, it's like a kid. It's like a kid who's in a vegetarian household. It's like, oh, I sure want some chicken. Or,
Right. So then when they out, they eating all the
yeah, I
chicken.
want a pork chop. I can't eat it at home, but wait till I get. Oh my goodness, give me one of those ribs, please.
Yes, I feel, and then that's why I think sometimes I feel sorry for like some of the teachers in high schools that be around those kind of students and end up like getting in a fight with them, because it's like, of course, the teacher, you know, should, looking at it from, you know, outside looking in, yeah, they should be able to contain themselves because it's a child, but for one, some of the children these days is just as big as just as big as the teachers are. And then I feel like, you know, I don't really know how old my teachers were then, but I just knowing how old teachers are now, sometimes the teachers aren't that much older than the student. It might be only like 5 years older than the student, or 5 or 10 years. So it's not like it's a huge generational gap. But then, like I said, sometimes the students are just the same size as the teacher. So then when the student's getting real rowdy and ruly, it's almost like the teacher has to defend themselves, but the teacher is the one that is more in trouble because they're fighting a child or a student.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's sometimes I think it's classroom management. It's like how do you start? What type of relationship you develop in the beginning with your class? You know, as an adult, and you know, like I say, classroom management. And if you're going into the class and everybody's seated and you have a conversation, you know, you try to get personal. And I'm not saying you got to love every student or whatever the case is, but you're trying to let them know, hey, I'm here for you. And, you know, we're going to have a good experience and we're going to enjoy our class and be respectful and, you know, and be consistent in the, you know, teacher got to be consistent in the class. Let people know, you know, what needs to happen and what's not going to happen. And with the kids today, you know, you can't confront them in front of everybody because everybody oohing and eyeing. And
Right.
you know, people feel like they need to react. But sometimes, you know, teacher might have to pull somebody to the side and say, hey, let's go outside and have a talk, you know.
Right.
And have a conversation with them. But, you know, I'm certain it happens today. I know it did in our day. You know, students would come to class just because they like the teacher. Wasn't learning nothing. Wouldn't study, wouldn't pass a test. But they would come to class because they liked that particular teacher. You know, and they were sitting in there. So every now and then probably something would sink in that they would remember.
Right.
Not enough to pass the test, but at least, you know, their attendance was decent because they liked that particular teacher. And again, not saying teachers have to develop that liking and that personal relationship with the students, because even these days, you know, being personal with students is that's even a taboo. It's
Right,
almost like,
right,
for teacher and student, but back in the day, teachers really, that was like in some cases, almost like an extension of your family. Certain
right,
teachers, they knew
exactly.
your parents. The parents gave them permission of, like I said, getting your tail if they needed to. Um, and they kind of looked at you as their kid, even for me teaching these days,
Mm-hmm.
my thing is I look at the kids that come to class, it's like either you're in my class or you're my student. And those are two different things. You're in my class, I mean you're just here.
You just there, right?
You're just here. If you're my student, well, we have a teacher student relationship. Hey, I'm here to do whatever I can. I want you to pass.
Mm-hmm.
I know your learning style might be different,
Right.
and I'm gonna do whatever it takes to make sure that you get the information that I'm giving. For the rest of you who just for the few or whatever who just come to class, just sit there and be quiet. Don't disturb everybody else. If you want to just sit there and relax, or be quiet and listen to your music, or fool me like you're doing something, that's okay.
Right.
Although I'm usually watching what everybody's doing, and sometimes I call people out before they leave class, say, hey, I saw you the whole time, you're just playing on your phone, you're
Mm-hmm.
doing the work. But like I say, if you're my student, I want to make sure you get it. I remember I applied for a school district in the North Texas area, and one of the interview questions they asked me was if I was teaching the class and the students were really learning by my method, and they were getting it, they were passing, they were doing well. If the administration came to me and said, well, hey, we have to change our teaching style and structure to something that's totally different from me, they want to know, would I make that change and kind of kick my method to the curb?
Right.
And I know the answer. You have to answer and say, well, hey, I'll stop teaching my way and teach the administration way.
Right.
And I know what they were alluding to, the fact that, hey, we have to pass these tests.
Right. And are you going to follow our instructions?
Yeah, we're going to follow this protocol. But at the end of the day, it's like, and I tell students, say, hey, it's not about me teaching you how to pass a test. If we're doing math, you need to learn how to do math. And when you get the test, you're good.
Right, exactly.
And you're good for the next class and the next class, because now you know what you know. But if I'm just teaching you these little, surface skills,
right,
just so you can get past this, and then all of a sudden I'm looking like, whoo, we did it. All my students passed. I couldn't find no glory in that, knowing that, that you really don't have the depth of the subject, But that's where the whole education system is right now. It's like, how can we, put things in place so we can, look good? It's almost like, do I want to win or do I want to look good failing? And a lot of times it's like, we look good. All the students not doing well.
Right, but and we look good.
As they can be. And, and that shows by the time they get to college, it's apparent that, they didn't learn anything in high school. Not enough to really get in there and get to the grind of doing what they need to do on the college level.
It's interesting you said about tests, and that was one of my questions as well. Like, how did you feel about the standardized tests that are issued out? Because me, even when I was in school, they've always had them. Even like with the SATs and those kind of things. Like, in my personal opinion, I don't think that really actually demonstrated where the student actually was academically, because I feel like if you just learn just to take a test, then you're only just cramming that information for that time being. But outside of that moment of learning the test, then it's like you don't really know any of the knowledge. So it's, essentially, to me, it's not kind of like what you said. They're not really learning. They're just memorizing some stuff just to apply to this one thing.
Test tactics. I mean, back in my day, it wasn't about a test tactic. You just have to know the subject. You have to learn you have to know how to read, write. Your math skills have to be a certain level. Else you just was gonna fail.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing when it's time to take the, SAT test or whatever the case is. If you didn't know, you didn't know.
Right, exactly.
So Yeah, so I think a lot, back in the day, a lot of people that went to college, um, they entered in really with a fairly decent foundation on passing the test. And then if they didn't do well on the SATs or whatever the case is, back then they used to call it remedial class. So maybe a semester or two, maybe at the most 2 semesters, you might have to take, remedial class in math, social studies, or science, just to get you up to snuff. And it worked. These days, from my college teaching experiences, students, they would be, they call it developmental classes. They could be in developmental classes for almost 2 years.
Mm.
By then they could have had an associate degree, but it's like they're wasting their grant money or whatever.
Oh, right, because they had to pay for those classes versus the classes.
Exactly. You sat in 3-4 semesters of developmental classes, and it's like it's ridiculous because that comes right back to that social promotion, and you really not having the right foundation. And the mindset to really get there and do independent study. My wife will always say, they don't know how to, the thought process is just not there, how to think their way through, certain subject matter. And that test preparation, it goes out the window when you get to college because teachers are coming at you from a different direction.
Right.
And expectation is then in college, once you get so far into the semester, and they couldn't care if you come back or not. It's
Right.
like you paid, and you made it through the first 2 or 3 weeks. The class made, so hey, it's all uphill or downhill from here. If you can't keep up, you're not gonna catch up. So you see the F coming, you see the class
Right.
coming, and teachers gone. So it's a different level of maturity that the students don't get when they in high school or whatever the case is, working on their GED. It's like a different maturity that sometimes they're not ready when they get to college. I call it too much mother's milk.
Yeah, I can see that.
If folks can understand where I'm coming from, it's like too much mother's milk. It's like, you've been babied in high school, people kept smiling when you weren't doing well or trying to give you a reward because you did well, and and that was your incentive, or
Right.
help you slide by this, that, and other. In college, the teachers are like, hey, we got too much work to do, and we have to get through this in a semester or whatever the case is. And I used to watch my dad teaching economics at the university I went to, and boy, I'm glad I wasn't his student. He was hardcore. They go through the curriculum, and if you got it, you got it. If you didn't, and you want to, sit in the back and not want to ask questions and pretend like you knew, you just was out of luck. I look at it like this: a student come to class, in my opinion, your first day of class, you have an A average.
Right.
If you go in and you're doing the things you need to do, you take your test, you study, you read. I mean, if it means you have to read 4 or 5 extra hours to get it done, do what you need to do, and you maintain that A average. But every test you fail, every homework assignment you don't turn in, that A average starts to drop.
I mean, that's true. I feel like I actually liked college better than high school. Most people say the other way around, or some people say both. But like, I felt I liked college more because I felt like after the 8th grade, I wasn't learning nothing else. In high school, I felt like they were just giving us the same work, or not giving us work that they could have gave us the year before. Even like with some of the pre-AP and AP classes, like advanced placement, I felt like, because I was in, I think, an advanced placement science class, and then I think I was then I dropped out of it and went to like a regular class. But both classes were almost teaching the same thing, except one you just got more work versus the other. But I was like, neither was actually teaching extra stuff versus the other. So I was like, after a while, like being in high school, I was like, man, this I'm not learning that else. I just feel like y'all just giving us work, and then like I said, they harping and focusing on those tests. So like you saying, they can look good, but then I'm like, I think I picked up on that all that early. So I was like, man, in my mind, I was like, I don't want to be in school, but I'm gonna keep going. But after a while, I was like, now I'm not even learning anything else. But then once I got in college, I was like, oh, okay, I like this because they're actually giving us work where I feel like I'm learning something, or assignments where I'm actually doing something that it just felt like I was actually learning again.
Well, it's a different maturity factor that kick in when you get to college, because at that point it's like, hey, this you're on that final part of education. You can go past the 2-year degree or the 4-year degree, or go get your master's, go get your doctorate, or keep going to school getting degree after degree. But at that point, it's a different challenge, and students in the class, and nobody's impressed by the next student. It's almost like, there's nobody to show off for. It's none of that. Nobody's paying attention to you in college like they are in high school. You don't have the same amount of friends. You can go to your college class, and most of the people at the college you've never seen before and won't see them again. So
Right.
once you leave out that particular class, you won't see them again. In high school, yeah, we don't have the same class, but I see you at lunch, and then I see you again the next day, or whatever the case is. So it's a different social element, and it can get boring, or people get a little bit more laxed on high school level. It's fun. Everybody's got something in common, and everybody's doing
Right.
the same thing. College is just so many dimensions. People, different backgrounds. They pay their money. They're not trying to be in a class where they got some idiot that keep asking questions and being disruptive. This is, paying students gonna say something. Hey, dude, you need to know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm here to learn, but you're not gonna say that in high school.
I did. That's why some students didn't like me.
Yeah.
Especially when they keep talking. I'm like, I'm trying to actually learn stuff because, look, if I fail because I can't hear or listen, then, that's on me. But, I mean, I know y'all not focused about my education, but I am. Like, I ain't trying to fail. I ain't trying to be like some of y'all where you might have be repeating the grade because you've been messing around school all this time. I don't even want to be in school, really. I want to learn, but I don't want to be in school. But I don't want to be in school extra because I can't learn and hear stuff because of y'all. So I'm like, no, I need to be quiet.
But that comes with classroom management, and it comes with, teachers' ability. A lot of teachers go into the profession knowing that, or feeling that it's easy profession. Some of them feel, hey, a lot of kids, I want to be a teacher, such and such and such, and they do well for the most part. And they go in there with the technical skills or whatever that they learn from becoming, in school, learning how to teach and do this and that. And the behaviors sometimes that they encounter is their biggest challenge. And it makes it difficult for the teacher to do what they want to do because they want everybody to be in the same behavior box or the same background. And that's when it get complex, and that's where it's different in high school and college. Because if you signed up for this class, you must want it.
Right, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And we're going to march forward and keep doing what we do, period, the end. In high school, it's like, again, you got to apply that mother's milk from time to time. And sometimes it just be a little bit too much. It's like, there's moments to be tender and understanding the student, but other times it's like, hey, you have to be firm.
Mm-hmm.
And not picking on the females that teach. It's like the majority of females that's teaching in secondary schools are female.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of men who have a different temperament in class and a different command. I'm not saying women can't do it. And there's many who do it, just have command of their class. But it's still a different behavior. People, especially boys, they less prone to, act up if you have a strong male teacher in the front.
Right.
Look at you and say, hey, man. Although the classes that I taught didn't have the same structure as, like high school or college per se, because the students were, coming from different backgrounds. Either they dropped out of school and they trying to get back in, or, unfortunately sometimes had, behavior issues. And, I just would tell them, I say, hey, I'm glad you guys are here. Let's be respectful. I say, if it's a day you come to class and you don't want to, if you don't want to come to class, don't.
Right.
And come, but if the next day you're feeling good, because I said, I don't want you to come in here and you have a bad attitude and we wind up having words and you come and get in my face and, one or two things that happen. I say, either you're going to hit me and my family's going to be visiting me at the hospital, or you're going to get too close and I'm going to hit you and I'm going to lose my job and they're going to take me out here in handcuffs.
Right.
Say, guess what? I'm not going to the hospital. He'd be like, boy, you gangster. I say, I'm not gangster. I say, dude, stand up. I was like, you weigh about 250, man. You 6'3", man. I'm gonna let you get that close to me talking crazy. And I wind up hurt.
Right.
But for them, it's like, it's an understanding. And I'm, there's a chance that I will win and there's a chance that I will lose. I don't know. But they do feel like, hey, I'm not gonna back down. And there's been times, I would have, like in class, strong discussions, and then folks will apologize later, or at least they'll know, hey, I'm not gonna be able to talk to him this way, and maybe like,
right,
realizing, well, okay,
it's almost like that substitute mentality, kind of like you were saying. It's like, if they feel like they can get over on the substitute, then they will. But if somebody come in there like, we ain't doing that, then it's like, oh, well, I guess still almost like a bully mentality too, where if you feel like you can pick on somebody and get away with it, then
Exactly. It is. Substitutes are there to be bullied. Golly, it's it's really ridiculous, but yeah, it's like that. I just tell them, hey, just sit down, chill out. Don't go over the top. Don't scream, and it's not a party. And do what the instructors. If they left some work for you to do, just get it done. When you finish, just kind of keep it down. Every now and then it'd be like a check. Hey guys, you're getting too loud, and they realize it.
Another question I was going to ask you. I think you kind of mentioned it, but I guess what are some of your biggest struggles with just being a teacher or someone in the educational world?
The biggest issue to me as a teacher is, I like to look at it as the construction industry. You have your administrators. Your administrator is like the architect. They design the structure of the school, or the curriculum and all of this stuff and how things should flow. The teachers are like the engineers. It's like, okay, this is how they want this particular school district or this system to flow. So we need to plan our lessons based on this format or whatever the case is. And then your finished product is the student. The issue is when the administrators don't have enough conversation with the teachers. That's like the architect, saying, hey, we got this big structure, look good on paper. And the engineers are like, well, yeah, that looks good, but hey, there's some little segments of it.
Right. Technically, this can't work like that.
Yeah, it won't work like that. There's no way that we can, level that off, or it's going to balance, or it'll work. So what can we do to come close to that design?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times in the education environment, teachers' hands are tied.
Right.
Now it's got to be like this, and then there's that personal element, because the teacher's not doing it the way I want it to be done. I got a problem with them. They can make it difficult, for the teacher, or whatever the case is. And, teachers, a lot of times they have their hands tied, and things could change in a moment. got a class at this time or this, that, and other. And I mean, it's just other things that they'll toss on you.
Right.
So to me, almost like when I mentioned earlier, you got a good format working with your kids and with the subject matter that you're dealing with, and they want you to change it up to fit in a different protocol that might even yield, less results than what you had doing it your way. And that, I don't think it was like that back in the day. A teacher came in, if they knew how to teach math. Even in college, I had instructors who wouldn't even use the book. I mean, we had books for class, and they would go through every chapter without even opening it. I mean, they'd done it long enough. And, high school was the same way. It was like, here, the book is for you.
Mm-hmm.
I know what's in the book. And they can teach it. And today, the teachers have the knowledge, but it's so many distractions, even, with the student, or just so many things between the student and dealing with the administration. Oh, I forgot. And parents.
Right.
It's just a lot, But I think that could be remedied a little bit if they paid teachers more money.
Yeah, money definitely is a good motivator.
Yeah, I think they can stand a little more firm if they go making some dollars. But sometimes I know they realize I'm not even making that much money
to have to deal with this. Yeah,
have to deal with this, But
I really think teachers should be one of the most high paid jobs in the country. Like, and that goes with like with the police department and firemen and some people like that. Like, it seems like the people who make the strongest important impact in the world are the people who get paid the least. So I'm like, yeah, I think teachers, because if you think about it, it's like, you got athletes who get paid a lot. So if they didn't have the teachers and the coaches, they couldn't be kind of where they're at.
And
right.
Every successful person has gone through some type of teaching,
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be in a school structure, whatever the case is. And, there's a lot of people say I was self-taught and,
right.
Didn't attend school, I only made it through the 7th or the 8th grade, whatever the case is, and wind up doing well. But, that's not the norm.
Right.
And that person has some special talent and to be able to move forward despite the fact that, all the doors weren't open like they were for other people and stuff. They still were able to, push forward and do it. And that speaks volume for that individual, but that's not how it works for everybody.
Right.
So the education system, there's so many components to it, like I said earlier, between administration, between parents, social media done got in the mix.
True.
So what can you do? Parents are kind of, they don't have the confidence in the system, and they're trying to do homeschooling.
Yeah.
And for some it works, and for some it doesn't work. So at the end of the day, the whole system, to a certain degree, it's like failing the students. I asked the instructor once. I said, "What does failing youth mean to you?" And they were like, "He's like, yeah, that's right. The kids are just not doing well these days as much as they." I said, "No." I said, "To me, failing youth is what we've done, how we fail them as adults, as society. Social media's failed them, music, TV, religion, politics, sports.
Right.
There's all kinds of, parts out there that's failed the kids, and make them see success without that education component in the middle. So from wherever they are, they think they're going to be at that successful level because we all in it. We know what LeBron is doing. We know who he's married to. You know what I'm saying? We in everybody's business, and it seems personal. You feel close to it, but you can't touch it. You're not going to make that. And none of those people would, like you were saying, none of those people made it there without going to school. There's no athletes these days that, can come right off the street and become a ball player. Football player,
right.
Basketball player, baseball player. You might be a skateboarder,
Right.
Something like that. Might be able to go to Olympic skiing, you
Mm-hmm.
know, but like the major professional sports, without going to school and doing decent in school, it's not going to happen. So even that's a segment of how broken the education system is, because um, they're not even giving the kids better things to look forward to. If you're on a high school team and you're a good athlete, I know they kind of sway the grades a little bit, and everybody's concerned about the school, school winning and this and that. And then, little Frederick, who was a good running back, can't even make it in college.
Right.
You know, um, everybody loved him when he was running, and now people not really paying attention. He don't have that popularity no more. Now that he's not in high school, he can't make it in college. So it's like a constant circle of through the education system where we failing the kids. Different schools. I remember last couple of years ago, it was like one of the, I think it was South Oak Cliff in Dallas. I mean, in the Metroplex, that the kids had to walk out because they were having issues with plumbing.
Oh
And
yeah, I
leaks
think
and
it was. I think it
you know what
was
I'm
at
saying?
school. I remember hearing about that.
So how? How you let something like that go on for so long? Doesn't
Right.
make sense. And you wondering, you showing that you don't care, but you want the kids to come there and feel like, hey, we need to be here and perform at our max. And it's apparent that they don't really care about us.
Right. Yeah, they got all the other elements that prevented me from even being able to learn. Like you saying, a school got plumbing, and that used to get me with because from my understanding, what I learned, like basically what the standardized test is, so the schools can get more money, but then it's like the government, they're bailing out banks and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, but the schools got to do those tests and have to ask for donations and all that stuff. I'm like, why does it seem like the education system is pushed to the back burner versus they'll throw monies in big corporations? And I'm like, well, if you educate people well, you can have more big corporations and more people who can make money for your country if that's the biggest concern. But cause I realize in some other countries, it seems like they train their students to be able to I guess function in society. So they're grooming them to to function in society. They're grooming them towards whatever their ideal goal or their ideal career is. Whereas it seems like in this country we're focused on the test, and then we tell the students to go to college, but it's like if you
But we
didn't,
haven't prepared them.
yeah,
They're not prepared. That's what I mean when I say failing youth. We
hmm
haven't prepared them. They look good. It's like here's a school in a particular school district, and the kids appear to be doing well because they're getting A's. Of
right,
course, they lowered, created this big curve, and kids are proud. Now I'm graduating. Oh man,
right,
I'm making A's and B's, and they really the equivalent of a C
right,
with the amount of information that they're actually learning and getting. So it's almost like it's like they're being lied to about
right,
what they really gaining, and it becomes a big weight once they finish. It's like, well, I graduated, like with A's and B's, or with this particular grade point average, and you think you got it. Then when you take the test to get in college, the entrance exam or whatever the case is, you can't even pass it.
right,
That's like a slap in the face, a big setback, and you wonder what went wrong. It's like social promotion and all of these other things, and people telling you that you can be anything that you want to be when you grow up, and you constantly see it, just these things that you book, and telling the kids that through the education environment, we're not really sinking into what their interests are, realistic interests.
right,
Well, I want to be a football player. Okay, if the whole school want to be football players, we know that's impossible.
right,
You know, you could be anything you want to be. Oh, I want to be the president. Okay, well, it's just third grade. If everybody in this class of 25 people want to be president of the United States, president can only last, his first term, if you don't get kicked out, is 4 years.
right. So if you got
So
25
still,
students in a class and each one is going to become president.
that's 100 years before all them people
Right.
before they can become president. Then when people try to be realistic with them and tell them, folks, oh, I'm telling that you're gonna break his or her dream. It's like, nah, it's not about that. See what, let's let them, you know, go for some realistic goals.
Mm-hmm.
What is it you like? Do you like music? Do you like science? Do you like this? Do you like that? And let's see how if we can, you know, up your skills in that particular area, and you'll do well because that's what you like doing. So, and let's find ways to get you to land in something that's realistic.
Right. What I also don't think it's taught is trying to do small goals to reach big goals. So in school, like you saying, and I always used to, cause I'm a poet, so I always be thinking about different things people say, but I always think about when people say, reach for the stars. I'm like, okay, but for one, I know it's a metaphor or whatever, but if you think about what you're actually saying, if you reach for the stars and you learn that our sun is a star, and if you touch the sun, you get burned. So it's like you reach for the stars, so you reach for something so high, and once you get up there, all you're gonna do is get burned. So it's like, well, that's not really a good goal or a good thing to teach. But then you also learn if you go too far out of our atmosphere, you suffocate anyways. So again, it's like you tell people to reach for the stars, which I get the point is saying like reach for. Actually, to me, it's not even a good saying anymore because it's saying reach for something that's out of your reach, but keep reaching for it. But it's just out of your reach. It's better to say reach, for something at the top of the refrigerator or something.
That's what I think. That's what, from an education perspective, that's where we lose. Again, I like saying failing youth. That's where adults and parents and everything else have failed the kids. Parents not looking at what their kid interest is. Sometimes parents like, nah, well, you need to do this or you need to be this or that.
Right.
And the kid try to attain those goals, and that's not really where they want to be. I know a kid, a young man now, who always loved cars, and fascinated with mechanic work, but his dad wanted him to be in the medical field, not even a doctor, a nurse, something else, because they just didn't see the benefit of being a mechanic.
Right.
So the student finished, got a degree in that particular field, and became a little more independent, and finally went back. And because he did get one degree, he had some credits that transferred to get the degree that he wanted. So he got his mechanic degree. Now he's working in a field for a company that he's loving.
See, yeah.
But if he hadn't stayed close enough to what he wanted to do, he'd be miserable trying to do this thing that people was trying to lead him into. And a lot of kids don't have anybody
guiding them one way or another.
But I'm saying, even if it's not my skill, the parents should try to seek out individuals who can help their son or their daughter move in the direction that they want to move into.
Right. I know we're getting close.
There's another part.
Go ahead.
It's that other part of education that we say is necessary so you can have a good future. And to me, the future don't even exist, because if you're saying, hey, I'm doing this for my future, it's like whenever that day arrives, it's no longer the future. It's always right now.
Right. Yeah. You gotta do for the now so you can do for the future now.
Yeah, the future now. So when that day comes, you could plan for some things, but it's all about what you're doing today, making it happen. Because we all know that tomorrow's not guaranteed. So if you're trying to put all your marbles in the basket for, 6 years from now,
right,
it'll be nice if you make it to 6 years from now and you have that particular thing.
Right.
But you still have to make sure that you're doing the things that you need to do right now to prepare for another day if you're blessed with it.
As I say, live for the now, because today isn't promised.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Another.
Yesterday's tomorrow.
Yep.
Or tomorrow's yesterday, should I say?
Tomorrow's just. Yeah. Right. I have another question for you. How do you feel about silent letters?
Who?
Silent letters.
Silent letters?
Yeah. So like in the word listen, the T
Oh
is in
yeah.
there, silent. What's your? How you feel about silent letters?
Well, I think they're nice. It's a good distraction. It is. Like I sent one of my homies one of my homeboys a message the other day saying one of the biggest issues that we have with learning is our inability to listen.
Mm-hmm.
If we listen more, we will learn more. If you don't believe me, list 10 things that you learned yesterday.
Clever. Yeah, when I was like I said last week, I was talking about silent letters, and I was talking about how if an individual chose not to, or chose to actually, pronounce the silent letters in the word, they would be looked at as if they're crazy. But yet everyone else, most of the time when you say, everyone else around you is crazy, then it's you're the one who's crazy. But I feel like if that individual decided to, say listen, or, pronounce all the silent letters in whatever the word is, I still would think everyone else was crazy except that individual, because we all decided to agree upon, using these silent letters, or, basically ignoring them when they're there, and agree with, it doesn't make any sense. Well, it's not write them in there if they're not going to be pronounced or used. So I was like to throw that in there just to see what people think,
Well,
and to make people think.
Yeah, it's a visual aspect. It looks good. I mean, when in the way we've been conditioned, even for the word listen, if you just write listen,
Mm-hmm.
nobody's gonna be even thinking. They don't think. They look at it like, what is this?
Right.
Unless you have it in a sentence,
Right.
in the right context. But for the most part, yeah, the letter missing. I mean, it looks good. It's just a part of it. Kind of remind me of off subject a little bit, but that silent letter in there, it gives, because we conditioned to see it. It's the image of that letter. When I think of the civil rights movement, and how black people went through that whole civil rights thing and trying to create an environment where everybody was treated fairly. We've become a society where we have people coming from other countries a little more freely than they did a long time ago,
Right.
because of the civil rights. And still, when they get here, we still invisible people to them.
Yeah.
It's almost like we don't count.
Right.
That letter is similar to that. It's been like that. That's been the part of the word. And yeah, it's not pronounced per se, but listen is listen, period. Lisen is how it's pronounced.
Right.
But as soon as you see that, it's like, man, you don't even know how to spell a word.
Right.
So whether we want it there or not, it's like, hey, that's not how it's spelled. And you can write it like that all the time, and people gonna look at you strangely. It's like, man, you can't even. That's not how it's spelled. Now you can misspell a lot of words, but sometimes those words that's got that silent letter in there, it's just the appearance is just not accurate.
Right.
And when I made reference to the civil rights, it's almost that one component that makes it what it is have to be there for it to be what it is. So, I mean, we the fiber of a lot of people coming into this country,
That's true.
and there's still people who will look at, they don't recognize that. They don't see that. They don't know that we held the door open or broke down the door for a lot of people to be able to come over here and do well, do better than most of us actually.
Right.
And when we talk about education, that's kind of thing I'll do in class. It could be a math class, and I might jump off in something like that just to keep people mind active and understanding, hey, this is a teaching environment. So yeah, it's math today, but let's talk about something that you probably need to know.
Right. I think it helps actually break fatigue too. So sometimes when you're just doing something, whatever the thing is, a task for an extended period of time, your quality of whatever it is can start to drop. But if you get like a burst of excitement, and that excitement could just be any kind of thing that distracts you from wherever that thing is just long enough, it helps kind of refresh the thing because you're taking a break from it. So I think that's a good teaching strategy to basically give their mind a break from this thing, but at the same time still educating you with something.
Yes, it's like let's still drop a little knowledge on you. It's not what we're dealing with right now, and we may come back to the subject in a minute, and you get everybody engaged in something off the subject matter, but then you get back to it, but it makes the class a little more enjoyable because then it's another takeaway or life lesson that they get out of class.
Right.
Education, man, it has changed, man. It's more electronic. So a lot of teachers don't have to know everything. It's easy for them to send kids to, do something digital or electronic.
I will say, on one hand, that could be, well, not sending them directly to digital, but like as far as environmental wise, I could see that being beneficial where there's not a lot of papers and all that kind of stuff. However, I do think sometimes it handicaps, especially, I do have like mixed views. So like I know when I was in school, and same thing I'm sure when you were in school, when you had to do like research projects, you really had to, either go look up in physical books or like, physical encyclopedias and stuff like that. So like that was always, I think, really good. But I can see the issue with it because stuff is constantly changing. Then yeah, it would be good to have a quicker resource or a more updated resource. But then the issue with the internet is because it's so free, it's a matter of what the knowledge that you're looking at is, that how accurate is that, or so, which brings me to another point, which I always thought about how we always talk about how people need to read more, and I agree and disagree all in the same breath, because I think we need to read and research more, because I feel like sometimes we just read into other people's stuff, because somebody could write a book about something and they're actually not that knowledgeable because they could have got all their experience off the internet or off of false information, and now you read their book and you think that is the truth or whatever, but then all that's completely wrong. That book is wrong, or that book was written in the wrong perspective because they didn't truly understand whatever they came out with, and then you get people to read into it.
That's good. Yeah, that's where we are with education and knowledge these days, man. It's like, just give me something that's right here and right there, and that's good enough, and I'll get forward with that information without having more background on it,
right,
without having a deeper knowledge of it. Just the fact I'm able to talk about it for 15 seconds, you're impressed.
Right.
Because that made a whole lot of difference to most people. That's like the microwave version of learning. Nobody want to take all that time for the oven to heat up. And like you were saying, when back in the day when you had to go in to the library and get a book, It requires some physical motion to
Right.
go get the book, open it, carry it in your backpack, have to read it, and this, that, and other. It just required more than, to go on the computer, pull up some information, um, and it's right there. It's so quick. It's good. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
a plus to it, but you could do it all in one position. You have to change position. You could do all of your studying.
Right.
So that one part of learning that requires some movement, you don't even have no movement. It's like you're not even going to get a book. You don't have to carry a book.
No.
You're not flipping pages. There's nothing. All you're doing is keystrokes, and there it is. And the visual. You get. You do have access for a smaller package to give you more information. So using a laptop or a tablet or something like that is a lot better than having 5 or 6 big books.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like you're saying, so much information. Everybody, you can find all kinds of inaccurate information. And if you're in a rush, that inaccurate information will be just good enough, and you go forward with it and
Right.
go through the rest of your life, not really knowing the truth or the depth of what it is you're talking about. And that's what I like to challenge as a teacher. Folks are saying something, 1 + 1 is 2. I said, no, it's not, because this doesn't make sense. And sometimes people think because you're supposed to be the authority, in my
Right.
case, the teacher, well, I must be correct. No, I'm being funny when I'm saying 1 + 1, but it could be something complex
Right.
that I know they don't have a real deep understanding of. And I could change stuff around and almost have them ready to write that down as truth. And I'm like, and I just hit them up after. I'm like, this, everything that I just said is inaccurate.
Right.
And it's like, what? You wasn't telling. I said, yeah, because had you studied,
Right. Exactly.
some of what I said doesn't even coincide with what you should be knowing at this point.
Right. You already figured out that this does it logically. Even if you didn't fully understand everything that you studied, you'd know, like,
That
this,
doesn't make sense.
it ain't making sense to what I even know. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where another part of where education fails sometimes. It just logically and logic, it's missing sometimes. It's like, hey, can you just give me the answer? Can you just point me in the direction so I can find what I need to do and get it and be done, and let me write it out and read it, or do this paper right quick and give it to you, and I get a good grade and I'm good. 2 weeks from now, and remember what I wrote.
Yeah.
Or what was said or what was asked. And that's why so many people, as they get older, it's so easy for the hustlers out here to just pull quick ones on people because they so gullible.
Right. Yeah. I think, like you said, it's still a huge microwave generation. Everybody want everything so quick and don't want to take the time to fully understand stuff and knowledge. And that's kind of part of the reason for this podcast as well, is to get people to start understanding and really just listening and not taking everything at face value. Because last week I just made up a whole statistic, because I was going on a rant about statistics, how a lot of times people don't they don't go back and try to fact check any statistics. So someone can ramble off some kind of numbers and tell you about this and that, and you're just going to automatically believe them just because of the fact that they actually said, expert shows that statistics, 50% of the people, and 32 that throw a whole bunch of numbers at you. So now you think that that's accurate, but no one, even in court cases, I see people, or you hear people throw out statistics, but no one ever shows the entire how the statistic came about, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It sounds impressive. It sounds impressive when people say it. It works in people's favor. It's convenient. I had a friend way long ago in my school days, and they were like, I was like, wow, it's just unfortunate that as a culture, we're not going forward in the education process and learning. And this person was like, I disagree. There's more black people in college than ever before in history. Statistics says such and such and such and such.
Right.
I'm like, okay, well, but if there's more black people in college than a long time ago, that's because there's more black people on earth.
Right.
So if you're saying there's 100,000 people in school now and it was only 10,000 back then, probably back then it was only 1 million people, and now of that particular group of people, there's 20 million. So yes, more people in,
right,
but it's still not in proportion to how many really should be, taking advantage of going to college or getting higher education or going back to school or whatever the case is.
And that based off that statistic too, like you're saying, some people don't look at just exactly what they're hearing. So like what you said, there's more black people than ever. Yeah, maybe, but it was once upon a time where we couldn't even be in school. So of course there's going to be more, like you're saying, more black people than before, because we couldn't be in school doing certain things. So of course.
And there's more black people.
Yeah. So
when they talk about politics, it's like, or the deficit. We have the biggest deficit than ever. Okay, well, people spend more. I mean, the whole money scheme is different than before. So if you're saying, $6 trillion now in comparison to 20 or 30 years ago, $6 trillion, that was just unimaginable.
Right.
Cookies and stuff was a nickel.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that whole statistic, when they throw that kind of stuff out there to people, they believe, oh man, well, the unemployment rate is worse than it's ever been. Well, there's more people trying to find work and more companies laying off people than way back then. And people didn't, there were fewer, the jobs and the people needing jobs was more complementary back then than extra people trying to chase fewer jobs now, and it's going to get worse when things become more robotic.
Right.
It's going to be ridiculous. But that all comes down to, like you're saying, the process of education and people not having a thought process and just so quick to hear what other people are saying. And I hate to see it mostly in our community.
Right.
As soon as there's somebody who's got some revelation of what our culture is and what it should be, and some type of theory on who we are and who we're not, and those who don't really read a variety of material, they fall right into it, and start quoting that person when he said this.
Right.
And it makes sense to a certain degree, but there's other factors that's in there that you shouldn't have to follow blindly. Yeah, it sounds good, and some of it you can absorb, but don't just go ahead and immerse yourself totally into some of the nonsense.
Right, because the thing is, a lot of, like I said, in our people, sometimes we don't go and, again, fact check those people, or who is this person? How do they know this? What is their experience?
That's too much.
Yeah.
But that's too much. That's too much work. That's like studying.
Right.
That's like studying. It's like, why do I need to go further? You just told me what it was. So let me just write that down and let me register that in my brain, and I'm good. So now I can go spit this foolishness to somebody else, and then I'm going to get checked on. It's like, are you serious? Did you really get great at? Like, well, yeah, Dr. So-and-so, he's the foremost authority on foremost, man. This dude, such and such, or this female, whatever the case is, think about what they're saying, and then you point some facts out to them and say, wow, I didn't even look at it like that.
Right. Yep. Yes, thank you, sir, for being on Conversations. I'm going to throw one last little question just to hear what you think about it, and then I'm going to leave people that lingered in people's heads for a little bit. But have you heard of or heard people say the, what is it, the pipeline from basically education to prison, the prison education pipeline or something? I don't remember the exact term, but the school to prison pipeline, I think it is, something of that nature. You ever heard that before?
Yeah, yeah. And it's we said and we see some things happening, and the unfortunate about that, we look at what we look at, and we quick to point out some things that's happening. It may be happening a little more than it should,
Mm-hmm.
but when it comes down to it, it's like when do we start pointing at the pluses, and we can say, well, it's not good. Yes, there are some pluses. When we
Right.
start pointing at the people who are doing well, even something like the athletes who, they played ball for a little while, but this is what they did with their money. They opened up this event or this venue, or they created this business, and they putting people to work. You know what I'm saying, and some other things. So I think as long as we always looking at the dark side, because that's what people keep putting in our face, the dark side. And it's not like it doesn't exist. Of course, some elements of that does, but there's an old saying, and it's something like treat a man, and not say man, that's women too. Or let me say, treat an individual how they are, and that's how they'll remain. Treat them how
Mm.
they should be, and that's how they'll become.
Mm.
So once we start putting better things out there for people to digest, and pluses on how people should behave and react in certain situations, and things that we should do to put us on a different path, then it'll go that direction. But as long as we keep saying, well, here's something that's messed up, because it take you a while to look back at what's being messed up instead of in a different direction as
Right.
something that's looking good. So now you're stuck in that thought process. So here's something and it's going to be dialogue. So the time we spend talking about this bad thing
Mm-hmm.
rob us from the time we should be saying, well, hey, look at this plus that happened over here, and let's move more in that direction. And if we can all move in that direction and not give uh too much credence or whatever to this negative thing, although not saying we ignoring the problem,
Mm-hmm.
is there, but it's harder to deal with the negative problem when we don't have enough good to grasp onto.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So if we got these good things, it's like it's easy. Well, I won't say easy, but at least when we go to deal with some of these negatives, we got this plus thing to bounce back at.
Right.
But most of the time it's like we constantly talking about what's not right, what's bad, and this is what keep happening in the system, in the system, in the system. And it's like, let's start uncovering and revealing those good things that can happen. How do we navigate away from that into some of the things that's workable? Because people are doing it. Even if it's other people, it's being done.
Yeah.
So but yeah, there's a pipeline, and I mean, it does exist, and what we need to look at is what's the root of that? I mean, how does it start?
Right.
Where is it starting? Because once that thing is once it's at a certain point of the pipe that's broken, it's gonna seep out and it's gonna be what it's gonna be. But it's like, at what point do we start fixing it? Because we keep looking at the end game of that pipeline, and this is you
Right.
started here, but this is where you end up. And from that perspective, we know the end up part is not good.
Right.
So we need to go back and look at, hey, where's that starting? And education is a part of that. And education doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna be in the classroom all the time. I like the way that one of my favorite authors and brothers in the culture, and some people might not like him, I don't know, but W.E.B. Du Bois said, education is that whole system of human training within and without the schoolhouse walls.
Yeah.
And when we start applying that, and each one teach one, I know something, let me show you, and let's
Right.
discuss it. Hey, you said, I mean, we can't even correct each other. You could say a word wrong, or the wrong word or use a big word and it's not in the right place, and I'll just let you say it. I'm not even correct you. So you're gonna go on saying a word incorrectly.
Right.
And if I said something, one or two things couple, three things that happen. Either you're gonna thank me for fixing it because you were making a mistake. You're gonna be pissed off with me for embarrassing you.
Right.
Or you're gonna think that I'm trying to act like I know more than you.
Right. Yep.
Instead, like, wow, you know what? I thought that was the right word. Thanks. So now I can use it and I know the correct way of doing it. But
exactly.
So we like being stuck, and that's just human nature. It's no particular culture, but sometimes people like being, stuck in their own standstill. And once we move away from that, that's where education starts. That's where teaching starts. That's where knowledge is.
Yes, sir. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. But yeah, again, I do thank you for coming on ConverStayShuns. Again, I'm going to probably have like a part 2 to this next week and get another guest on here as well. But yeah, I definitely do thank you. Thank you for your input and your knowledge that you dropped regarding education, the education system. And, it's actually coming from somebody who's actually in that profession versus somebody on the outside speculating, because I feel like a lot of times when people are talking about the education, oftentimes they're speculating or they don't really know the system from the inside. So thank you.
It's a big topic.
Yeah,
it's a big topic. It can go on forever, but thanks for having me.
All right, again, y'all, thank y'all for tuning in to ConverStayShuns. Peace.